In this project, we are trying to figure out the effects of wording bias on gun control. Gun control is a prominent issue right now, and we wanted to determine how wording bias can affect people's opinions regarding the issue. With this idea in mind, we set up an experiment where we would sample the opinions of SJJ students on the issue with two similar questions. The first question simply asked whether or not the student believes that there should be tighter gun control laws without imposing any bias. The second form of the question asks the same essential question, but starts off in reference to the recent tragic Orlando shooting. Our hypothesis is that when we ask the question while mentioning the terrible shooting, it will result in wording bias that encourages people to be more against gun control than if we simply ask the question in its unaltered form. Using this design, we set out to determine whether or not wording bias has an impact and how large the impact is, specifically in relation to gun control.
Using a random number generator, we numbered all of the mentor groups and randomly selected 6 numbers which corresponded to 6 different groups. We then obtained a clustered sample where we asked a question to every person in the groups. 3 of the groups received the unbiased question while the other 3 groups received the biased question. Alright, so do you think the U.S. should implement a stricter gun control policy?
No.
No? Alright, thank you. Alright, so Rob, do you think the U.S. should implement a stricter gun control policy?
I think they should.
Alright, awesome. Thank you. Alright, Connor, do you think the U.S. should implement a stricter gun control policy?
No.
No? Alright, awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Alright, Dan, do you think the U.S. should implement a stricter gun control policy?
Yes.
Yes? Alright, awesome. Thanks. Alright, so do you think the U.S. should implement a stricter gun control policy?
No.
No? Alright, awesome. Thank you. So, in light of the Orlando shooting, do you think the U.S. should implement a stricter gun control? Yes? Alright, awesome. Thank you. So, in light of the Orlando shooting that happened in the past few months, do you think the U.S. should implement a stricter gun control?
Yeah.
Yes? Alright, awesome. Thank you. So, Marquez, in light of the Orlando shooting, do you think the U.S. should implement a stricter gun control?
Yes.
Yes? Alright, awesome. Thank you. So, in light of the Orlando shooting, do you think the U.S. should implement a stricter gun control?
Yes.
Yes? So, Dallas, in light of the Orlando shooting, do you think the U.S. should implement a stricter gun control policy?
Yes.
Yes? Awesome. Thank you.
Results of the experiment reveal a statistically significant correlation between wording bias and the two questions. The initial unbiased question consisted of 18 people against gun control, while only 16 people were in favor of it. From the sample we received, it seemed clear that the majority of people opposed gun control, but in general it was about even. When we implemented wording bias into the second question, the results shifted significantly. As only 15 people opposed stricter gun control, while 20 people were in favor of it, our experiment reveals how wording bias evidently affected the outcome of the experiment, as it pushed a relatively even issue strongly on to one side, with more people favoring it in the bias question.
The results of the experiment support our hypothesis, as the number of people who favored gun control was significantly greater in the question with wording bias than in the original question. However, there are also many ways we can improve the study if we do it again. Because our study consisted of only SJJ students, we are unable to apply the results of wording bias in the experiment to a larger population. Furthermore, the lack of secrecy of the experiment could have impacted the experiment, as people may have answered differently and the experiment was anonymous. Finally, we found that although sampling 6 house groups is an adequate amount for our experiment, there could still be a prevalent margin of error in relation to the whole population. Overall, we found that the experiment went well and that the results supported our initial hypothesis, although there are a couple of extra measures that we could have taken in order to increase the reliability of the results.